Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to continue on with our Epic Waterloo updates. Now, I've changed the name to Epic because of Warlord Games have announced a new game for Black Powder called Epic Black Powder. It is released with American Civil War miniatures. But as you know, I don't do American Civil War. But I'm really interested in, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm really interested in seeing what changes they did to the rules to how do I say this? I want to see the changes to the rules to see how they incorporate the mass battles into Black Powder. Because Black Powder is normally done at maybe a corps level or less, maybe a division level, with maybe a division level actually, because, you're looking at like 4 or 5 brigades on a side will fill a table. So now I played a couple of years back. We played Quatre Bras using the straight out of the book first edition Black Powder. And it's second edition had just been released, but I wasn't really familiar with second edition. So we played first edition Black Powder. There really isn't any changes except for some leadership changes and rearranging the book. But that game we played on it was probably like a 10, maybe a 9-foot table, 10-foot table, something like that. About 5 or 6 feet across. And the way I had the map was with the road, the Brussels road going straight across the table, and I trimmed off the woods and I extended it out past where the bridges on the far right of the swamp and everything, the lake and everything on the right. And I used that game as kind of a play test, but we were able to play the entire battle, or at least get the battle played far enough so that we could see who was going to win, or who. Well, actually, we had gotten actually, we probably got about 3/4, 4/5, something like that, of the way through the battle in like 4 hours. We needed probably about 5 or 6 hours to actually play that battle from start to finish like the way it was. Okay. So I'm rebuilding my Quatre Bras forces. As you can see on this shelf here, this is the French side, that's the British side. And I am thinking about doing Waterloo and not Quatre Bras. Now, I can't do the entire front of Waterloo, right, at that scale. That just won't happen. So, I mean, the table would just have to be enormous. So I considered changing the scale of the units. Instead of doing battalions, doing brigades. A lot like an old staple of mine, Napoleon's Battles. I used to play Napoleon's Battles, and I had every figure that you needed to play Waterloo. And I had played those in 4 figures per base, just like Black Powder, except they were done in 15 millimeter. And that took up a 9-foot table, 15 millimeter. So if you could only imagine that these are like 30 millimeter, they're not, but double it. So I would need an 18-foot table if I did it with Napoleon's Battles. And then if I, and Napoleon's battles uses brigades and not battalions. Okay, so my thought process was, since I've got a 9-foot table, playing half of the battle, right? The left side, left flank, and then the right flank, right? So I'm going to do the left flank 9 feet, and then do the right flank 9 feet, right? Okay, but that would still be needed to be done in brigades, not battalions. If I was to go into battalions, then that 9 feet would, or the half the battle would have to be maybe shrunk down a little bit to accommodate for battalions. But then you're starting to get away from the grandiose theme of Waterloo. The reason why you play Waterloo is because it's a massive battle. Now, if you just want to play the Hougoumont battle, okay, we can do that. We can do that with Black Powder. If you just want to play Quatre Bras, that would be a massive battle because even though it was only a corps against a corps, but that's still going to take, like I said, a 10-foot table. So my mind has been, in the last couple of months, I'm working towards my Quatre Bras forces again in the battalions, every battalion of Quatre Bras. But I also, in the back of my mind, want to do Waterloo. But I thought about this. I said, what's stopping me from saying, just saying that battalion there isn't actually a brigade? It's just a word, right? And then if let's say the 1st Guard Division had 2 guard brigades, right? And each of those brigades had like 4 battalions in them, then why can't I just say 2 of these battalions would represent the Guard Division, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's excellent. Because then what does that do? That allows me to play the entire left side of Waterloo in 28 millimeter at the scale, at a brigade scale. So that's what I've been doing. Because like I even have a guards regiment on the end there, but that's not at Quatre Bras. But I did it anyway because I'm planning on doing the forces directly behind Hougoumont, right? The entire French left flank is what I'm planning on doing. 2nd Corps, Kellerman, over on the left, and then in a future battle, doing the right flank. And all I got to do is take those British forces that I did for the backside of Hougoumont. I could say, well, now they represent this division. And then I could take the Nassaus over here and say they're the Nassaus over there. So there's a lot of cross-pollination, if you would, right? Same thing with the French. I got a French corps. I could just pick it up and put it on the right flank and say, there you go, they're 1st Corps instead of 2nd Corps. Even though they're not. They're basically just proxying them. So really all I need to do is build, well, actually, now that I mention it, I'm building an entire corps at the battalion level. So technically, if I switch that out to a brigade level, I could probably do 3 corps. you know? So, okay, but the problem there is I don't have a table big enough to do the left and the right. I don't have 18 feet. And when I go to a convention, I'm not going to request an 18-foot table to do all of Waterloo in 28 millimeter. I'm not going to do that. First of all, the game would just take too long to play, you know, and you can't referee a game like that. If I had all day to play and I had a couple of people supporting me as referees, yeah, we could do that. But then that really is just taking up the entire day, and I don't want to do all that. So I'm thinking, my plan, and my plan's about to change. So this was my plan, was to have the entire left flank done in the battalion level, because I'm going to do Quatre Bras, and everything that was pretty much in the left flank was at Quatre Bras, almost, except for the guards and a few other cavalry units. But basically, it's going to be a non-stop project. I'm going to keep pumping out battalions, and we'll figure it out. Okay, so then they decided they're going to release this game called Epic Black Powder. What is that? I take a look at. Well, it's 15 millimeter black powder. And I'm thinking to myself, 15 millimeter black powder? That's, why would I want to do that, right? Because I've already got a bunch of 28s. Well, the Civil War figures that they put out are, they look epic. And the reason why I say that is, they're not in square bases, right? They're not 4 figures or 6 figures on a square base. They are 20 figures. 20 figures on one base. Now it's an extremely long base. It's probably an 80 millimeter base. I mean, when I get I'm guessing. Right? I'm guessing. But if it's 80 millimeter by 20 or 40 millimeters deep, it's the same as 2 of those bases. Right? So 2 of these bases would equal 1 of the epic bases. But let's get back to the epic rules. From what I understand, those are still regiments. You still have brigades, and you still have brigade commanders. So, to me, they didn't really change the rules or the scale, game scale. They only changed the miniature scale. And then by changing the miniature scale, they were able to, or they were willing to, or they needed to change the base scale. Okay, now I thought about incorporating the idea of a long, thin base. Some gamers out there call them mass combat bases, or mass figure, or grouped figure bases, or whatever. And I think that's kind of a cool idea. So I thought about getting a 40 millimeter deep by 80 millimeter wide bases, right? Basically 2 of these bases as one base. Thought about it. And then just mounting a bunch of figures on there. Maybe more than 4 per side. Maybe a total of 5 in the front. You know, to make it kind of just a little bit extra, right? And then I would only need like 3 bases to represent a battalion. 3 bases, 10 figures, so it's like 30 figures. I can't do it. Because if I was to take 3 bases and put them back to back, right, that would be technically a march column, but in Napoleonics, in our black powder game, that would be an attack column, right? So how would I represent a march column? Now I thought about this. I thought about just putting a token down and saying, okay, they're actually in march column and not, but then it wouldn't look right. And then I said, well, I could take the figure bases and turn them sideways, and then I could have a long line of figures like a march column would be, but then all the figures would be facing out the sides, so that's not really going to work right. And so I decided I'm going to stay with the 6 base recommended bases for black powder, 6 bases, only 2 figures wide, 2 or 3 figures wide, and that way I can make a march column with all the figures behind each other. I can do a column of companies with 4 bases, leaving 2 off. I could do 3 across, 2 deep as a 4-rank line, or I could put them all in a line, making them a line, a 2-rank line, or I could put 2 by 3, making an attack column. So there's no reason, or there's no need to switch to a like mass. Actually, there's a detriment. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the 6 square bases is the best way to go. If I want to form a square, I can always turn half of them around, some to the side. I could form a square, where with 3 bases, you can't form a square. I could take the back rank and turn it around and then say it's a square, but there would be nobody facing to the left and right, which is okay, but I don't like it. Now, when you're looking at the epic black powder miniature regiments that you get 100 figures, which isn't really 100 figures. It's only 10 figures. It's 10 models. One model looks like 10 men. So you put 2 of these models on a base, and it looks like 20 guys. And they have 5 bases. Okay, 5 bases. I could put them in a line, making a really long line. I mean, the line would be really long, because remember, each base is double width, or maybe more. I don't know what the real actual scale is. Times 5, that's like having 10 bases, and that's too many. But then, when you form them in an attack column, it looks epic, because I got all the figures in a row. There's 100 men and not just 24. So they look really good, but I need to see what the changes are to the rules. Okay. If I can incorporate those rules into my brigade Waterloo, I'm going to do it. But I have to wait till February or March or whenever it is. After you pre-order those things, I should be getting them in February or March. So if it's easily now because it's 15 millimeter, because they're smaller, I can get more regiments on a table, but that's not true. I thought it would be true, but it's not true, because those regiments are ginormous. The bases, just the bases, are huge. If I took 2 bases, and that is one of their bases, then it would be very like having 10 bases per regiment on the table. So it's still taking up an area of space per regiment more than my 28 millimeters. So what I thought about doing was, and this this is crazy, but I thought about getting some 15 millimeter Napoleonics. Man, after painting my Waterloo 15 millimeter Napoleon's battles armies, I don't know if I want to go back to 15 millimeter. That was a lot of figures to do the entire Battle of Waterloo. But if I made a decision to just paint battalions or regiments, brigades even, 15 millimeters, I'd be able to do them in a week. I'd probably have the entire brigade painted. I mean, they're 15 millimeters seem to be very easy to paint. Not a whole lot of detail. You don't have to pull out all the buttons and the mustaches and stuff. You don't really have to do all that. But I probably still would do it. So like just hypothetically, let's say I get some Old Glory 15 millimeters. You buy a bag of Old Glory, you get like 30 models in a bag for like, I think it used to be pretty cheap. Now they're pretty expensive. I think they're like $30 a bag, and you get like 30 models. So it's $1 a figure for 15 millimeter. I think that's too high. I think that's too high for 15 millimeters, but I'd have to shop around. There might be some plastics out there in 15s. If Warlord decides to do epic Napoleonics, I might get that. I might get them because it'll probably look awesome, and I can still keep these. And then when I decide to do like Waterloo or Wagram or Leipzig or something like that, I could use the epic scale. I don't know. I still think it's going to take up more space on the table than 28s. But my idea, and I'm just rehashing this again, my idea is to change the scale of the unit. So instead of calling it a battalion, I'm going to call it a brigade. It's still going to have all the same rules. That's not true. My idea is to half all the ranges. So normally in 28 millimeter black powder battalion scale, every order you issue allows your figures to move 12 inches, right? Well, 3 orders will allow me to move 36 inches across the table, and I personally think that is too fast for a epic scale game. So if I was to play because remember, the ground scale I'm halving. So if I'm halving the ground scale, or am I halving the ground scale? Let me think about this just for a second. Let me see if my math is okay. Yeah, I'm halving. So instead of it being a battalion, it's now a brigade. I'm taking a brigade of area and bringing it down to a battalion area. So I am shrinking the ground scale, or increasing the ground scale if you want to look at it that way. So 1 inch is not 1 inch anymore. 1 inch is now 2 inches. So I need to half all the ranges and movement to accommodate for blowing the units up. So if my brigade, just hypothetically, let's just say my battalions in my brigade equaled 2 feet in area, and I had 2 orders, I could move them 2 brigades worth of distance. Where if I shrink the brigade down to 6 inches, then I get 2 orders. Then those 2 orders should only allow me to move 2 brigades worth of movement, which is going to be halved. Same thing with shooting. So all ranges, cannons, everything, all ranges are going to be halved. So that means on a 5x9 table that I'm on right here, I can actually play the entire left side of Waterloo. Brigade scale, but they just have 28 millimeter miniatures. That's my current plan. That's what I'm working on right now. Quatre Bras, okay. Because I'm making the figures for Quatre Bras first, or concurrently, actually same time, I'm kind of looking at what figures were at Quatre Bras, what figures or what units were at Waterloo in that left flank, and then I'm picking and choosing units and picking them out and building them. Just yesterday, I got in a avant-garde, Brunswick avant-garde, which is the guard, and then I also got in the Leib Guard or Life Guard, which are the guard. So avant-garde are like guard light, guard Jaegers, that kind of stuff. They're the guard, but they're skirmishers. And then the Leib Guard or Life Guards are the actual old guard for the Brunswickers. I got both of those units in yesterday from Perry, as well as Nassau Usigans, which are the ones all in green, top and bottom, and with these bearskin Busbies or whatever. I got them in. So those are the next 3 units after this current unit that I'm doing right now, which is almost finished. I have the 100th Regiment of the French. 1st Battalion, 100th Regiment. Part of Foy's division. Also, I gotten some generals in. So I got Foy. I got Campy, Bachelou, D'Ileron and Rial, and LeBeau. Prince of Orange, couple of Dutch. I got a Dutch and a Belgian colonel, which I could use as brigade commanders, even though they're not brigadier generals. I can still use them for that. I got a few other generals, but I'm holding off on doing all my generals or all my leaders until I get enough of these battalions done, right? Okay, so back to Quatre Bras. Last time I did Quatre Bras, a couple of years back, I bought a canvas drop cloth, right? And this canvas drop cloth, I stretched it out over the table, and then I used latex rubber to do the roads. I got brown latex rubber. It's a latex caulking, basically, that you can get at your hardware store. And I used a spackle or whatever, a spatula, and I put the roads on it. And those, because it's latex, it's flexible, right? And then before it dried, I could put like ruts in it or whatever I wanted to put in the road, and it looked really, it looked really awesome, right? And then for some of the other areas, namely the river, I used some blue latex rubber. And then I realized that didn't really look like a river. It just looked like a blue road. So I had to go, because it dried kind of dull. So I went back over it with some blue gloss paint. It looked really good. And then I painted, or I should say I put Elmer's or glue on it, and then sprinkled flock over the entire map, right? And I used a variety of different colors to give it like a multi-tone look. So the entire map was flocked, and I didn't like it. When it was finished, I mean, I could put my hills underneath it, and it gave it different contours and stuff. I didn't like it. And the reason why I didn't like it was, first of all, the flock. It was sealed on there pretty good, but that cost a lot of money to do a 6x10 drop cloth with flock, and it was messy. There was flock all over the carpet and everything, and then yeah, because you can see I'm on a carpeted floor, and I did all my work right here on this table. And when I did it, it basically it shrank the drop cloth. The drop cloth got shrunk down because I guess the Elmer's glue, when it shrunk, it pulled everything tight. When the caulk shrunk, it pulled everything tight. And so what I wound up having was about a 5x9 cloth. There was a bunch of people out there that said use clamps to clamp it down, so because it will shrink and stuff like that. And I did do that. And when I took the clamp off, it went like a rubber band, right? It just so it I didn't like it. It was more work. I mean, it was kind of cool on the table, and you can watch my Waterloo or my Quatre Bras battle at NashCon. It's on my channel somewhere. You can see the map there, right? It just didn't. Let me rephrase that. It did great, but it wasn't. It's not universal, because those roads that I put on there, that's all it can be used for is Quatre Bras. And that as a gamer, you probably know, having a mat that I can lay down and use for any battle is probably a better way to go. Okay. Now, having said that, I'm going to get another drop cloth. I'm going to order 2, actually, because I think they come in a pack of 2, 6x9 or 9x12. I don't remember, but I think I'm going to get a 6x9 drop cloth, because I'm going to build it to be able to play on this table, which is only 5x9. I'm not going to build it to play at a convention. I'm going to build it to play at the house. And then if I want to take it to a convention, that's great. But I'm not going to flock it. I'm not going to put any kind of latex rubber on it. I'm just going to use good old Krylon Rust-Oleum spray paint. I'm going to take some greens, some browns, some tans, all different kinds of camouflage colors, and I'm just going to spray paint fields, patterns, hills, not really hills, just randomness all over the entire map, right? So I'm going to have this canvas mat. It's going to be durable as hell because it's canvas, but it's also going to be colored, but it's not going to have loose flock and grass just all over the place. I'm not going to have to seal it. The spray paint will seal itself. And I'm not going to use any kind of, I'm just going to spray paint it. Now, I'm debating on whether or not I want to spray paint any roads on it, or if I want to spray paint any wood areas. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think my roads and my trees and stuff like that are going to be done on bases. Like I'll make like a wooded base, plop it down. It'll probably be flocked, right? And I'll plop it down, and then I'll put trees on that, and then people can easily identify where the outline of the trees are, or the wooded areas. And I can use that for bolt action. I can use that for Hail Caesar. I could use it for black powder or whatever. Now, because I'm getting 2 of them, I thought about this. If I'm not flocking it, and if I'm not putting any latex on there, I might be able to double side it, right? Because if it's just completely flat fabric with spray paint on it, I should be able to take it and turn it over. If that's the case, and we'll experiment with this once I get those in. If I am able to turn it over, then I could do, and if I'm getting 2 of them, that means I'll have 4 sides to play with. I might do like a winter themed one. I might do a desert themed one. Maybe. Probably not. And then I'll do like a general, like European fields and stuff like that one. But then I might flip one over, and this is just a might do specifically a Quatre Bras layout where I have the river painted on there, the roads painted on there, right? And then I could actually take the city blocks, paint them on there. Because in my Waterloo, or my Quatre Bras game, what I had done was I had taken a building, put it in the center of a city block, and then I outlined the city block area with picket fence. And if you were inside the picket fenced area, you were considered deployed in the building, right? Because the way black powder is, you can put a whole battalion in one building. Well, the one building's not really a building, it's a group of buildings. It represents a city block. So I could take and like specifically Quatre Bras, it's got a crossroad, right? I could paint one of the sides with maybe black. That's what I was thinking, making that a city block. And then I could put a number of buildings in there, or I could put one big building in there, or whatever I wanted to put in there. I could even put the fence around it too if I wanted to. I just, people would know where the edge of the city is. So I think I'm going to do that. Okay. Continuing on with this map. Remember I said I had one road go straight across? Well, what that did was, I'll kind of show you with these rulers. I had one road go straight across the map, right? Okay. And then I had another road like this, right? So you had the main French attack was up this road, and then there was this other road that linked up to another battalion. It went to Wavre, I think, and that's where Ney kept sending messages trying to get another brigade or another corps to come and attack or whatever. And the British came in from this side, and the Dutch Belgians came over here, and the Nassau. I cut this side off because there wasn't enough room, right? And the scenario in the Albion Triumphant book doesn't include that division and the Nassau and stuff like that. I want that division. I want the Nassau. So what I thought about, and the way the battle really worked was, through the playtest at the convention where I saw from my own eyes, nothing ever happened down here. There was some cavalry that kind of flanked around, but nothing really happened down here at this bridge. Everything was transpiring right here. So if I move the center of my focus over to the actual town, it still wouldn't work out right. So I thought about it. I said, why do I have to have this road go straight up and down across the table? I don't have to do that. I could put this road across the table and along the back side of the table, right? Giving more room down here where all the fighting is taking place. And the French would be at an angle coming across, attacking this way. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I don't know why I had to. I'm very. Now I don't even have to do that. I could do just a little bit if I wanted, or just however much. But I think I like the fact that this road just goes straight across the table, real close to the back side. Quatre Bras is right there at the back side of the map. And then the French, by allowing them to attack at an angle like this, you're actually giving the French more table space. Because remember, there's woods here as well, and there's a river that cuts across this way. But when I did it this way, I was realizing that they were very cramped, which they're supposed to be cramped. I get that. But it just seemed like it might be better to do it that way. And I think that's what I'm going to do. When I get this first tarp in, I'm going to paint one side just generic, and we're going to see what it looks like. And then the other side, if it doesn't bleed through, or, well, even if it does bleed through, I still probably am going to paint both sides, but I'm going to paint the second side with maybe a river and a couple of roads just to see if that works. And then I can paint the city squares. I could even paint the woods where they belong. That way I don't have to lay anything on top of the mat. I could just put the trees on there, and everyone will see where the woods are because it'll be painted a specific color. Yeah, that's my plan. I'll do that on camera so you guys can see, and I'm going to angle the road. Yeah, I'm pretty much, I've got my plan on Quatre Bras doing that. If that works, these tarps are only like $10, right? $10 for a 6x9 tarp. If I can do double-sided, that's going to be great. And they're heavy enough. I've noticed through my last one, it's heavy enough because it's a tarp that it doesn't really shift. It doesn't move on the table, and hopefully it doesn't stretch or whatever. Like some of these other game companies have like vinyl or neoprene or cloth fabric or whatever, and I don't like any of those. I don't like the neoprene for one thing, and the vinyl is great for like D&D or something. You can write on it, it lays flat, but it's not for wargaming. And then the cloth ones, they look really good because they look like they're printed directly onto the cloth, but $75 for a 4x6, not gonna do it. Not going to do that in any shape, fashion, and form. If it was like $25, I probably would have considered it, but because that would make my entire table like a $75. But a 4x6, that doesn't even cover half my table. Yeah, so okay, just throwing this out there. I still have a second Perry order to come in. I still have my Victrix orders to come in. And I still have my Warlord order, which was supposed to be in tomorrow, but I heard it got delayed. So we'll see what happens with that. Half of those orders are going onto my eBay store, so it's not even for me to put together. And the other half of it is for my Waterloo project. So I plan to get a lot of cannons in. I'm getting way too many cannons, so I'm gonna have to maybe sell some of the kits that come in just because I think I ordered too many. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming out and listening to me rant about my Waterloo project, and I'll see you in the next video.